So basically the same day he gave me the award letter, which I thought was pretty fast.
And how many bids had you placed before this?
None. That was my very first one. And so we made it work. We're still on board and we were able to win a third time and we're gonna keep going.
But again, she's getting continuous revenue for multiple years by staffing someone who more than likely, they're not gonna leave. Ms. Daisy Williams is here today that has won not one, but 3 federal government contracts in fewer than 4 months. And I'm so honored to have you here today.
I'm so happy to be here. I can't
happy
believe
for you
I'm
to be
in
here
Mexico.
too. I know. She's here in Mexico. She's one of my former students. I'm so excited to have you here.
Thank you.
How did you get into government contracting?
I got into government contracting after being in the corporate America space for over 14 years. So at the end of 2022, my industry, which is banking, specifically compliance, kind of took a dive downward. With the economic climate that we have, it was pretty much like all the layoffs and all the bank closures. A lot of people were just seeking employment. And so companies found it to be to their advantage to start paying contractors and or W-2 employees lower rates because of the number of people that were seeking employment. So I found myself in a position where the corporate contracts started to become scarce.
Ooh.
So I started looking into other ways of, trying to make good money with the expertise that I already had with the 14 years of banking experience. So I started my journey, a new journey. I got into the stock market, did a little day trading, but I was like, this is just not enough. It's not intriguing enough. It's not keeping me busy enough. I'm not forming human connections anymore. So I was like, okay, let me just figure something else out. So I'm scrolling through Instagram and I came across this promotion for government contracting. It was for another guru and I started looking into it and that person was promoting a 5-day challenge.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let me sign up for this little $99 government contracting challenge and see what it's all about. So she pretty much gave an overview of what everything was about, how to get into the space, but she didn't give any specifics, right? So after the 5-day challenge, and I didn't have the opportunity to ask questions. So after the 5-day challenge, I met with some representatives and they told me about all the things that she was offering at the time. But I felt like the relationship and the personalities, they just didn't mesh with what I was looking for. So I took a step back, took about 2 weeks off, and I said, okay, I kept thinking about government contracting. I was having dreams about government contracting. So I was on Instagram again, and then I saw this reel with this Goldilocks, this beautiful creature here. She was promoting government contracting. So I was like, I keep thinking about this. Here's this reel. Let me just reach out to this person. So I said, hey, Dr. Kizzy Parks, I introduced myself. I'm like, I'm having a tough time right now trying to figure out how to maneuver in this, economy. I want to learn more about government contracting, but I need the right mentor. So I didn't think that anything was going to come from it. Honestly, I thought it was just going to be a blank message sent to the outer space and nothing was going to come back. So within 10 minutes of sending the message, I got a DM back from Kizzy. So I was like, okay, oh my goodness. So I think you asked me the question, you said everything was possible and you said, why do you think it's difficult? And I gave you so many excuses and you just kept encouraging me. So I said, okay, what is it gonna take for you to mentor me? And you said, I don't think you had the mentorship option available at that point, but you said that you were gonna be starting a challenge. So I was like, okay, here we go again. Do I need another challenge? And so I was like, okay, if that's what she's offering, let me get more information. So you had me reach out to your admin, Miss Melanie, who's also great. And she sent me some information about a 5-day challenge for $97. And so I was like, okay, this might be good. I may get a little more information than I got before with the first challenge. So let me just try to absorb all the knowledge I can. But then you had a VIP option.
Yes.
And the VIP option came with the option to ask questions and get an extra hour before the holistic class. So I was like, okay, let me go ahead and do the VIP package. That way I can pick her brain. Hopefully, I'm not even gonna lie, I was hoping that it was only me in the class. So I got into the class. I think we had 20-something people in the class.
Something like that.
Yeah, it was a pretty small class, but it wasn't just me. So I didn't have her one-on-one. So I said, okay, let me do this. I think I asked so many questions throughout the class. And then I was like, okay, now what? After the class was over, I said, okay, I have more. Then I came across your YouTube page. And I was like, okay, I have these free resources. I have a whole notebook full of notes after just 5 days. And I said, okay, let me piece things together. Okay, so I started piecing things together. I got on Sam.gov and I was lost. So the good thing for me was I had already established my LLC because I was going in a different direction with it. I was gonna do like digital courses.
Oh, okay.
Yeah. So I already had that established, but I really didn't have a plan. I didn't have a business plan. I didn't have a trajectory of where that business was gonna go.
Okay.
So I said, okay, let's just use this thing that's already laid out, get registered on Sam.gov, get the entity ID number, and let's, get the cage code, and let's go with what Kizzy has taught me. So I started trying to do everything on my own, and I was like, okay, now I gotta reach out to Mel again to see if maybe she's thinking about doing the mentorship since she now has these people that have gone through the challenge and they may be wanting more, because I think a few of us expressed interest in going further with it. So Mel was like, okay, it's your lucky day. We're about to do this mentorship, but it's gonna cost you. So I was like, okay, Mel, all right. So how much was it? So she gave me the price. And I was like, all right. I was like, Kizzy, I'm gonna have to come back to you later because, I can't afford your price right now. And so you said, okay, let's connect in the future. And then again, I kept having dreams and, daydreams, night dreams, all types of dreams about government contracting. So I said, okay, this is an investment for me. This is an investment towards my future. I've been praying about, getting into a different industry. It keeps coming back. It has to be a sign from somewhere, right? So I said, okay, I bit the bullet and I said, okay, Mel, sign me up. She asked me if I wanted to do the payment plan. I said, no, I'm gonna go ahead and pay it in full because I don't like owing people. It's just weird. So anyway, I got into the program. I think that was in late July. It's in summer, yeah.
July, August timeframe.
Yep, so it was me and a few other young ladies. So we started the class and again, I started picking your brain. Drove you crazy. But I felt like it was almost like a one-on-one because you were so personable and you were so transparent and so natural and so just relatable.
Yeah.
So I was like, okay, no one else is asking questions. I'm gonna just take this opportunity to just ask my questions. I was like, I don't care if they sound elementary. I just need the information so that I can get started. So as you were teaching us, I took the information that you had in our G Suite, a bunch of templates, started making them my own, and then I was like, all right, about halfway through the course, I think I was ready to start bidding.
Yes, it was around halfway.
Yeah, so I started looking into solicitations, and I think on some of the calls, I pulled one or two up, and we looked at it together, and so I said, oh my God, what have I gotten myself into? And you were like, okay, it's not that hard.
Right.
It's gonna take work.
Right.
You have to be disciplined. You have to get yourself together, and you have to have confidence. That's the biggest thing. You have to have confidence.
You got to have confidence.
For sure.
Yeah.
So I went ahead and I bid it, and I think I called you to review my package before I did.
Oh my goodness.
For the first one.
Yes, because I had shared with her and with everyone else. I said, listen, an easy area, and I've said this before, I'm going to say it again to everyone watching. Religious opportunity. It's basically staffing for chapels at Department of Defense locations is typically the bids. She ran with it.
Yeah.
Which is amazing because you want to do that.
Yeah.
So she ran with it. She's like, I found one. I'm submitting. I just want you to review it.
Yeah.
And then I reviewed it and I panicked.
Yes.
Because I was like, whoa. I believe that it just needed a technical approach. But thankfully, I have all of these templates. And so she was able to take the information and not only use it, but what ended up happening?
So I ended up submitting, and my bid was too high for their budget. But I had communication with the contracting officer from the time the solicitation was posted on Sam.gov up until the deadline. And we just formed a connection. Like he would answer me immediately. He would come back with questions about my company. And so I was too high and he could have just rejected it, but he called me and he was like, Daisy, you seem like a great person. You seem like you have your business together. what can we do? Can we meet somewhere in the middle? Like, and then I just came out and asked him, I said, what's your budget? And his budget was really, really low. So I was like, okay, can we meet somewhere in the middle? And he was like, let me get with my upper management and see if we can meet somewhere in the middle. So he was like, I just want to let you know, I want to be transparent. There's another person that has submitted and they're closer to the number we're looking at. So I was like, okay, do I go super low, lower than what he's already proposed, or do I just stick with my number and what my gut is telling me? Because remember, there's also a wage determination. So I didn't want to lose out because I knew that I had to meet that minimum wage per hour, and I didn't want to lose money. So I was like, okay, do I take this small increment per month and get the past performance that I need to go after larger contracts, or do I just tell him, Victor, I'm going to pass, So anyway, got back with the contracting officer and he was like, okay, let's get this done. He was just like, you're supplying us with the ideal candidate. You found the ideal person. You're coming with the right numbers. We like the way you're, executing things on the business side. So let's go ahead and work together. And so basically the same day he gave me the award letter, which I thought was pretty fast because I saw in the Facebook group that most people are waiting like 30 to 90 days to get their award letter. But he gave it to me instantly, pretty much.
And how many bids had you placed before this?
None. That was my very first one.
So 1 of 1.
Yes.
First time she won.
Yes.
And there were some key things that you did. I mean, the template is a template, but she engaged with them.
Yep.
Because when you get to know, like, and trust someone, and especially when there isn't that a ton of competition, you're going to want to work with Daisy.
Yes.
You're going to want to work with yourselves out there.
Yep. So the key takeaway from that one was just being myself. I was myself. I picked up the phone when the contracting officer called. I never put him on hold or put him on the side. We became I engaged with, things. I think there was a storm going on in his area, and I've gone through hurricanes. And I think they were going through a hurricane. So that was another pointer that I could connect with him with. And so, we're still working together as of this day. We still have a great candidate in place. She has prior military experience and they love her. And as a result, my company is hopefully gonna get more business with that entity and we're gonna keep moving forward.
And how did you find this person? Because I want everyone to understand that this is in essence staffing. So how long is the contract?
The contract it starts with 1 base year with 4 optional years. So it could be up to 5 years, which is also one thing that I was looking for. I was looking for longevity because coming from a space where I was the subcontractor, a 1099 independent contractor, my contracts ran on a rolling 12-month period, but it was also, that renewal phase. So if they wanted to keep you, they would. If they didn't, they would, they have the right to terminate the contract. So I wanted something that had some sense of longevity, and 5 years is a pretty decent time to get a check every month.
And then it's great because the person that you put in the position, as long as they perform, they're pretty much guaranteed to be there for 5 years.
Exactly.
And especially for this type of a field, because it's so specialized, because we're talking religion, but at the end of the day, you have to find the person and be able to place them. So how did you go about finding this person?
So I started finding this person. First, let's talk about how I got into this. So you were saying that you were kind of getting out of the space for religious positions. So I was like, okay. When you started talking about it, I was like, I don't want to be your competitor because you know what you're doing and you're going to win all the contracts. So I was like, okay, now she's talking about getting out of the space. So why don't I ease into the space, taking, over the reign? So I said, okay, how do I get these people? I started off with Indeed. Indeed, canceled my account 60 zillion times. So I was like, okay, I can't rely on this Indeed. ZipRecruiter, I was on ZipRecruiter. They were giving me these candidates that didn't meet the criteria at all. So I said, okay, what else can I do? So I went out to LinkedIn. I found people. I just did a search for religious. I just put the word in religious. And I think a few people popped up in the area. And then I put the city and the state. And so I started reaching out to people that way. I would send them messages and they would either get back to me via email, a phone call, or a text message. And I would talk to them for 10 minutes. And I was like, okay, can you send over a resume? And from there, I started just submitting resumes because all of these positions are asking you for resumes. They don't want to waste any time. Some of them will require you to do interviews. So you want to make sure that you're engaging with the candidate, the potential candidate first, because they're going to be questioned at some point by the government entity. So that's really how I started finding my people. But from that experience, from the first one, I've been able to get my Indeed account tight, and now people are coming to me. So I'll post a job requisition, and people are starting to apply. But you got to be creative. You can't go in there and say, you need a religious education coordinator, because not everyone knows what that is. So for me, I just, I try to spice up the title to kind of attract people to it, and I think that that's the easier way to go about it.
And it's a smart way to go about it, because they have to meet certain requirements. It can't just be anyone who is of the faith. You have to meet certain requirements, and sometimes the people may already be there. They're volunteering, or maybe they perform a similar duty at another church or another chapel. So this is great opportunity to find great people, because especially when it comes to religious positions, because they're super passionate about what they do. But this applies to any type of position. So you got this win. You're excited. I was excited. I'm so proud of you and proud for you, because you ran with it. Because I've said before, it's not hard to win a contract. It isn't. It is not at all. But what's hard is to do it again and to make sure you keep executing, because she's responsible for 5 years. And so you have to make sure, yes, I'm in it for this long term, because if not, then who's going to control the boat? Who's going to drive that boat?
Are they going to give it to someone else?
They're going to give it to somebody else. So then talk about the other wins.
Okay, so the second time around, I actually found the perfect person from a referral, and that person was on board to go and show up for the interview. They wanted to do an interview for this one. They were very impressed by the resume we submitted, and the person just dropped out the day before they were scheduled to go to the interview. So I was like, okay, we've already won the contract, and we won it not on price, but based on her resume. So I said, okay, we must have had the best person. And this was in, I think this one was in DC. So it was really competitive, but we had the right person. So they were like, okay, let's get her in for an interview. She totally she couldn't make it for whatever reason, personal reasons. And so I said, okay, the interview is tomorrow. What do I do? So mind you, I have this posting out on Indeed, so I have people that are submitting constantly. So I had another person who hadn't heard from me in 2 weeks, which I feel bad about it, because I'd already found someone. So I'm like, okay, I had to reach out to the contracting officer to let them know, look, this lady is having some personal issues. She can't make it. Can we reschedule? So they actually gave me 14 days to find someone else. And luckily, by the grace of God, they actually liked the second person. So they liked the second person so much till she interviewed, and I was able to get a modification. And the modification was for more money. Because that person had more experience, and the personalities just meshed. She is bilingual, and they love that. So not only did she have the passion for the faith, but now she can service more people in the parish because of her secondary language.
And this wasn't part of the original contract.
It wasn't part of the original contract. So with the first person, I worked really hard to get her the ideal schedule, because she had home life to deal with, and it's a part-time job. Most of these are part-time. So I had already set up an agreement with the government entity, with the Department of Defense, to have her come in 2 days a week, and the rest was going to be remote. That wasn't a part of the original agreement, but they were willing to do it because the candidate was right. So again, we had to go with another person who's there on site, which is what they really wanted.
Okay.
So yes. So it was just perfect timing. And I was getting really nervous during that 14-day span, because I was like, what am I gonna do if I can't find someone else that fits the bill, right? And so I had to just come to terms with myself that if you don't make this work, then this could be the end of this experience. And we don't want that to happen. So I prayed hard. I think I called you 50 times. I was like, what am I gonna do? And you were just like, you just gotta make it work.
Right.
And so we made it work, and we're still on board, and we were able to win a third time, and we're gonna keep going.
And how long is the DC contract?
All of mine are 1 base year plus 4 optional years. And so with one of them, it's a little bit different from the first two because this one, we're already in the option year, the first option year. The first year was only 3 months. It was the remaining months of 2023. And then now that we're in 2024, it's considered an optional year.
Okay.
Yeah, but they're gonna give us that additional time on the back end to make up for the full 12 months. Yep.
But again, she's getting continuous revenue for multiple years by staffing someone who more than likely, they're not gonna leave. Yeah, people turn over, we've all done something like that, but especially for these religious positions, they're not really gonna turn over. I have found even non-religious positions, people aren't eager to leave.
Right.
They like what they're doing.
Yes. And if you treat them right and you pay them on time.
Yes, which is great.
Yes.
So some people may be wondering, how do you handle payroll?
So we're using wide area workflow with the government to submit invoices. So my rule of thumb is on the first, I ask my people to have all their time into the QuickBooks software. I set them up with their own profile. They can manage their time on their mobile devices. They can do it from their desktop. They can do it from their tablet. They can do it on the go. They can do it at home. So what I do is on the last day of each month, I ask them to just have all of their time in by midnight because on the first, which is tomorrow, I think, I'm going in and I'm approving time and I'm submitting the invoices because I'm giving the government a net 30, which is 30 days for them to basically pay the invoice.
And then how do you get the money? Where does the money go?
So the money comes from the wide area workflow system and it goes into my business bank account.
Which is key. They're
Yes.
not paying on Cash App.
No.
They're not paying on a credit card. She verifies the hours. She submits the invoice. The government processes it. And are you paid within 30 days?
I am. I've never had a late payment. So one of my contracts is paying in 11 days. They're on it. The others are paying somewhere around the 20th of the month, but my rule of thumb again is to pay my people on the 15th. So my payroll is processed on the 15th once a month. And I feel like that consistency gives people a peace of mind. They don't have to worry about if the government's not paying you, that's not my problem. I'm here performing, so you need to pay me on time. And that's part of my retention. I want to make sure that people feel valued and they feel like important. And paying them is important. These people are not just there because they want to be there. They're there because, they want to be a part of the faith. They want to service the community, but they also want a paycheck, right?
Right.
So yes. So my rule of thumb again is to pay once a month on the 15th so that it's consistent. Nobody's wondering where their money is.
Which is great.
Yes.
It's excellent because now you can take this and bid on other opportunities because I know that you bid on some kind of financial opportunity that was in essence staffing.
Yes.
My rule of thumb is anytime an opportunity involves a human person where they're on site, meaning they go to some government thing, or even if they're virtual, then it's staffing.
Yeah.
That's how I look at it.
For sure.
Yeah.
Yeah. So I'm comfortable in the religious position space. I think I have enough experience there. I know the questions to ask. I always try to engage with the contracting officers before I even submit the bid, just to get a little feel for their personality and how they feel about me and my company and the way we're presenting ourselves initially. Sometimes I'll stray away from certain solicitations based on the place. If I don't feel like it fits, what I'm trying to accomplish, I will stray away from that. But for the most part, I find that, when it comes to the solicitations that I bid on, I'm looking for what's gonna give me a higher profit margin with the least amount of stress. With the religious positions, it's typically 1 to 3 people that you're supplying for the federal government. And like I said, I have conversations during my welcome orientation situation, which is very brief. I stress to these people, you're an independent contractor. I don't want to micromanage you. This is your show. I'm just here to watch the show perform and just handle anything if there are any problems or issues or you need me to step in as a representative. So that's the way I paint the picture. I have tried to get into other staffing positions.
Just if you would be so open to share about it.
Okay, so I tried to get into this other one for a payroll specialist. And I felt like the requirements were so generic. There's so many people, I think all you had to do was have 5 years of administrative assistance experience, and you had to know maybe QuickBooks. So I could have applied for that, right? So I was like, okay, I submitted the bid. We didn't win, but I requested a debrief. And the only thing that the contracting officer said was, your delivery was impeccable. Your package was great. It was priced. So it was the lowest price technically acceptable. And so I thought our price was pretty good, but you know, I like to pay my people top tier. Even if I'm not getting the profit that I want, I just want to make people happy. And I feel like, you know, if you're paying people a decent wage, they're more than likely to arrive and to show up and do a good job. So that's my philosophy. So we didn't get that one, but it was great because now I know I have to come in a little bit lower. You know, maybe, I mean, the contracting officers are not going to tell you the price.
No, they're not going to tell you the price. But what was great about it is they never said, well, wait a minute, you just recently started government contracting.
They didn't.
Because there are these myths out there. Oh, you need 2 years. Oh, you're too new. Or no one's going to want to work with you because you don't have a background in staffing. Your background was finance and corporate, you know, and they never said that.
Yeah. And another good thing was I could use my personal experience from my resume as past performance. So even if they would have asked for that, which they didn't care about it in this instance, I could have very well used my personal experience and my, you know, connections with that Fortune 500 company that I worked for 14 years, which has everything to do with payroll and accounting and everything else as past performance. Unfortunately, that one didn't work out, but now, you know, I have the information that I need going forward, you know, to the point where if another one comes out, I'm ready to roll.
Right.
And now I know what the award amount was because you can go on their website to find the award number, the awardee, and the award amount.
And she could potentially bid on it if and when there's a recompete. Because even though I'm assuming it's a multi-year contract,
it was base plus 3 years.
They could renew it early. They could decide that they want to replace the current vendor, put it out again in a year. But now, in several years, she can put herself in a position to win the recompete.
Yes.
So that's what's so beautiful about this space is you can pipeline out for 5, 10, 15 years.
Yes, yes. And so, that was a great learning experience. I found myself not even upset for not winning it because I was able to get that little gem from that contracting officer about just being too high.
Right.
And we were way too high. Like,
what is that? Like double, like triple?
It was like
4
1.5 times, you know, what they wanted. And I felt like, you know, what we were asking for, I just wanted that extra per month.
In addition to the staffing, you kind of went ahead and experimented with Middleman and bid on some shredding work.
Yeah, so I bid on a shredding opportunity. I felt like it was like low risk. I'm always looking for low risk. That's another thing. I'm looking for something that won't have any like insurance component. People won't get hurt. Government won't like try to sue me or anyone else involved, right? So I went after a shredding opportunity. I had conversations with a company, a local company, for about 3 weeks. Had my package ready for a submission day, and the guy calls me up, I think about like the day before the solicitation responses were due, and he's like, Daisy, I really like you as a person. I like what you're doing with your business, but we're gonna go ahead and bid on this ourselves. So I was like, oh my God. I was like, sir, we've been at this for 3 weeks. And he was like, I know. He was just like, but I just feel like it's gonna be more beneficial for us to bid on it ourselves. So I was crushed. I'm not even gonna lie. I was crushed about it. And I was just like, okay, this was my segment into a different area. It was gonna be perfect because these people have a great reputation. Communication is good. We actually like each other, and I know he can get the job done. So that one didn't work out, but the takeaway was maybe I divulged too much information. I started off very, very, very safely by just giving bits and pieces. But once I reached that comfort level, I was like, okay, I want to be completely transparent. I don't want to hold back because this is a person that I may be working with for 4 years. So I don't want him to come back and say, you know, I'm not being trustworthy because I didn't give him the information up front. But it didn't work out. You know, sometimes your honesty it gets the best of you. But I feel good at the end of the day that, you know, I didn't sugarcoat anything. I gave him the information that I thought he needed to execute his portion of the deal, and it just wasn't meant to be, really.
Well, and now you know for in the future because you know their award, you have this kind of information, you're very well aware, and you can bid on it in the future.
For sure.
Not only on Sam.gov, but on GPO. Which is great.
Yes.
And so what other opportunities do you foresee bidding on?
I love staffing. Like, staffing is near and dear to my heart. I've basically, you know, started there. I just want to grow it. Like I want to go from the 1 to 3 person opportunities to the 5 to 20 and then take it from there.
Oh, that's good.
So I really want to, engage with people and give people opportunities to make money. Not everyone wants to be a business owner. Some people are just better at being, contractors as subs. A lot of people don't want to do the heavy lifting. So I think, if people can find good people to work for, they don't mind. I was an independent contractor for 8 years and I loved it. I absolutely loved it. If the industry wouldn't have crashed, I would still be doing it to this day. So, I think that just being able to fuel the economy with government dollars is great. I think, once you portray like, you have a good business ethic, people want to refer their friends. If someone drops out of the game, you may get a referral and someone else may be replaced in 24 hours or less. Right. So I want to get into more staffing. I want to do some middleman work. I'm a little bit scared about it, but after that one experience, but I feel like I want to try again. With this industry, with government contracting, you cannot be soft. No. You gotta be even if you shed a tear, you gotta wipe that tear and get back up. So I feel like I want to try the middleman experience again. I really want to just diversify my portfolio. I want to have contracts, an array of contracts. I want to touch on every single thing. I want to do janitorial. I want to do window washing. I want to stay with the religious. The religious is always going to have a special place in my heart because I feel like that's where I started. It's just been a part of my faith now. Just my prayers are aligning with that industry and that NAICS code. So I want to stay there, of course, but I want to venture out into bigger and better opportunities. I want $1 million contracts. I want to be able to bill thousands and thousands a month.
Well, you can bill hundreds of thousands a month. I mean, especially through staffing, because her current contracts are multiple year. A lot of the staffing are multiple year, 5 years, and then there's state and local.
Yeah.
There's a ton of state and local for you to bid on.
Yeah.
So the sky is the limit.
Yeah.
And she has the past performance.
Yes.
And that's what's key is once you get something, it helps everything move forward because the first win was her first attempt at federal government contracting.
Correct.
And even though she didn't win that payroll finance opportunity, they never said, oh, it's because of, you're new to this. No, they were like, hey, it's due to pricing.
Right.
Even with shredding, they would have never said, oh, you don't have any experience with shredding. Nobody says these things.
Yeah.
Because these are all low risk at the end of the day. We're not talking about her providing missiles. That's going to be a little different. That's a little different.
Let me do that too.
But at the end of the day, there's so many opportunities.
Yeah.
What would you say to those who are watching where you're like, this is what you should do? Who are thinking about it, they're like, this is inspirational. Because you got to also keep in mind, she's a mom, she's a wife, you have 2 beautiful daughters. You have a lot going on.
Yeah, life is busy. I would say first and foremost, if you can, seek a mentor. I think that's going to accelerate the process. Of course, I think having someone that can just answer your questions at the drop of a dime and a person that's at your disposal. I mean, if you're paying for something, I feel like, you're gonna do it, right? Sometimes when we get free things, we're less likely to execute. For me, at least, I know that when I paid for my mentorship, I was like, this has to work out. I got to get at least the money that I paid back. So I had to get at least one contract going. I would say if you can't afford a mentor, I mean, there are other resources. There are free YouTube videos. There's this book,
WinnersWayBook.com. WinnersWayBook.com.
Very affordable, things like this. And it's also something, it's something that you can keep. It's a tangible item that you can keep. You can mark it up. You can make notes. You can read it over and over again. The information is not going to get old. I mean, there's lots of gems in this book. But I feel like, YouTube videos, just doing your own research, just going out on Sam.Gov, even if you don't have your cage code already, you still can look at solicitations, read through them, try to see if you're interpreting them correctly. If you do seek a mentor, bounce some questions off their head about a specific solicitation that you're looking at. So I would say go that direction. I mean.
No, those are great tips.
Yeah.
And what is the number one thing people need to stop doing?
Procrastinating. Stop procrastinating. Build up your confidence because you're going to need a lot of confidence to go into these conversations. These are people, while they're human beings and most of them are relatable, they don't want someone that's just coming in there with fluff. You have to have some sense of business. You have to have some poise about yourself. You have to be likable. But once you get past that initial connection, I mean, the sky's the limit.
Yeah, it truly is.
Yeah.
It truly is, because what Daisy has done is she's created these relationships. You've visited clients. You're going to visit, your client again for different reasons. And that's what they want. You want that Amazon effect, that they look at you as the go-to.
Yes.
Because these are multi-year contracts. It's a little different if it's a one and done, like, hey, just install something, or paint the walls. It's different because you're just there one time. But when it's multiple years, you have so much time here.
Yeah. And you want to, my whole step process is obtain the contract, maintain the contract, make sure your people are happy, retain the contract, make sure you're getting renewed for those optional years. So those are the three things that I personally live by: obtain, maintain, retain. And then just that rinse and repeat effect. If you can win one government contract, you can win 100 government contracts. It just has to be the opportunity that's for you. Not every opportunity is going to be for you. Not every opportunity is going to align with something that you're supposed to be doing. So that's how I count my L's, my losses. I don't take it personal anymore. I'm just like, you know what? I'm gonna pick myself back up and go back out there and bid again. I mean, the opportunities are vast. I just feel like you just have to have your package together. Like, you have to have your business tight. Like, that's the thing about this industry. You cannot come in here with typos and all other types of things and, all this fluff and, people want, at the end of the day, they want a job done. The government wants a job done, and they want someone that they can rely on. They don't want to have to resolicit these things. If they're awarding you a contract, they have the confidence that you're going to be reliable enough to execute. If you're in this industry, you are an adult, and you just have to put yourself in the government's position. If I was hiring, I don't want to keep hiring. I want to have a person in that space that's gonna do the job right the first time and then move on.
Yeah, it's vital.
Yeah, for sure.
Because on their end, it's a pain. It's, we made the award, and then now the person, they can't fulfill the position, or they don't have funding, or their subcontractor backed out. So it's always important to have, as Daisy has mentioned before, multiple resumes, to have a backup subcontractor, to have multiple quotes, to make sure you have some cash, because if you win something where you're selling a product, you're not always going to be able to pay them 30 days down the road. They may want the money now.
Yeah. And even with that notion, with services, for me, my rule of thumb is I like to pay my contractors on the 15th of the month, but I invoice the government on a net 30. So I'm not getting the money in 15 days, which I have to discipline myself to make sure that I have the funds available to pay my contract. I don't want them to have to wait until the government pays me. I don't think that that's good business personally. I have government entities that are paying on the 11th. I have another one that's paying on the 27th, and another one that's paying like at the very end of the month. Those people shouldn't have to wait until the government submits the money. I mean, I just think that a good business practice is to have a set time where your people are getting paid, where they can depend on it. I don't want people, I don't like to wonder when I'm getting my money, so I want to make sure that I'm respectful to people and just cognizant of the fact that they have families, they have things that they want to do in this space. They have to love what they're doing. They have to have a passion for the faith and for religion, but they also need to eat. They also have to do, whatever they want to do with their money, whether it be leisure or a necessity. So that's really one thing that I really strive to do.
Which is great.
Yeah.
Because at the end of the day, you want to maintain your customer, you want to maintain the team members, and you want to maintain an awesome reputation.
And you want to retain those people for 5 years.
Yeah, you
if
do.
not more.
Because whenever you have a vacancy, you can't invoice.
Right.
So the people must be in their positions. And let's say you're making, on the low end, let's say you're just making maybe $2 per person per hour.
Yeah.
You can see 50, 60, 70, 80, 100. But what happens when you're making $5? What happens making $10 an hour per person? So it becomes a very lucrative space where every single month you're making all this money because you have amazing people out there who represent you. And in this space, you'll find, because this happened with you, where they may want to interview, and then they may test them. So you have to be prepared for that too, that every single person represents us.
Yes.
even though they may never see you, they may sometimes forget they work for you because they're so accustomed to being on site or even working from home, but they still represent us.
For sure. So you want to make sure that you're getting the right person, especially when it's a specialty. Like I think you guys have a pharmacist on staff, right?
Yeah,
on one of your contracts.
Yeah.
So for the specialties, I mean, you're only going to have one person in a certain position. So that person needs to be coming to the office. They need to be clean cut. They need to be on time. They need to be punctual. They need to be ready to go. The government is, if they get sick, which is, we're all human, you have to be ready to fill that space because, some government entities are going to be lenient. They may say, we really like this person, we'll let them work from home while they're suffering from the flu. Others are going to be like, no, we need someone in here tomorrow.
Right.
So if you want to invoice or we're going to dock it, we're going to make an adjustment. So you really need to make sure that, you're having backups, and if that comes in the form of, maybe interviewing multiple people at a time and just, having someone on standby for, substitution purposes, you have to make sure that you are doing that. And I find that going back to the interview requirements, when I got the first one, there was no interview required. But I think now they don't just want a resume. They want to get a feel for the person, like the physical person. They don't want just anyone coming into their environment.
Right.
So now I feel like it's getting a little stricter in my space where they want to see the person, not physically feel the person, but they want to, get the aura of the person. They want to see if this is going to be a personality issue.
Right.
Can the staff get along with this person? Are they bringing good energy, or is it going to be a conflict? So, and I think that's smart, right?
Yeah.
Because before I send someone, I don't just take a resume and send it off and then tell you show up. I want to have a conversation with you. It's probably going to be Zoom so I can see what you look like. But, that's just the way that I do things. I like to know upfront what I'm dealing with. And
which is important.
Yeah, the government is going that route. That's what I feel.
Because they're going to end up spending more time with them than they're going to spend with us
sure.
business owners. And on top of that, there's not only just some of these chapel positions, but there's music-related positions.
Yep.
So some may say, oh, I'm talented, but we all know from the sign language situations that have been out in the news, people lie.
Yeah.
And so they will hold tryouts for organists, for pianists, for different music positions, for somebody who's singing. So just be aware that doesn't just apply to the religious positions. I know that they've done some things for coding. We had one of our clients had one of our candidates go through like a grammar test.
Oh yeah.
And it was like a trick grammar test.
Yeah.
Where like there was nothing wrong. So everyone's different because they know.
Yeah.
And if you bring in the wrong person, that is game over because we are guests in their homes. We're contractors.
Yeah.
We're not government employees. We're not military members.
For sure. And I mean, I had one where they asked for, how many words can the person type per minute. I had to give them a typing test. So luckily she passed, but I mean, and just the check-ins, right? So once you get the person, even though they may look good from the initial interview, you need to make sure that you're following up with that person and you're following up with the point of contact that's on site. Because if they're not happy, no one's going to be happy, right?
No.
I started off doing weekly check-ins with my people, and I felt like it was just a little overwhelming because I would call and we would have conversation, and it was like, everything's great. Like, I have no complaints. You're great. The position is great. I'm comfortable. So I was like, okay, let's do bi-weekly, right? And so now it's just like, I have one young lady where we're texting on a bi-weekly basis, and she's like, Miss Daisy, everything's fine. She was like, if you don't hear from me, that means everything's fine. And so I'm reaching out to the person that she's reporting to. I'm like, hey, I just wanted to make sure that I'm engaging. I just want to make sure that you guys know that I'm present. Do you have any concerns? Is anything keeping you up at night as far as it goes with our contract? And they're like, no, she's great. We have no complaints. Thank you so much for sending her. But it shows that you care. It shows that, you want to be present. Even though you're not physically there, they still know that, there's someone behind that business name, a human being that is, interacting with you. So that's another thing that I do to kind of stand out because I'm not sure what they were used to before we came into the picture. Right. And a lot of them will say, well, what we were used to is not the same as what you're bringing in. So I do have another client, And he's like, well, we're not used to like this vibrant personality. And he's like, you know, you're walking in here and you got this big smile, and you know, this place is kind of like melancholy, but you're coming in here and we're having fun. Let's go out for pizza after this. So, I mean, I just think government contracting is a beautiful space.
It is a beautiful space, and it's great that you bring that. I mean, we're all different with our approaches to owning a business, but it's great because, again, they're going to want to do business with Daisy.
For sure.
As a small business, they're dealing business with us, with the business owner, or whoever is the front-facing person of your business. When it comes to a large business, they're dealing with business development, they're dealing with sales, they're not dealing with the CEO of Boeing.
Right.
Now, some people are. In the federal government, of course.
Yeah.
You know, but for the most part, they want to do business with Daisy, and so that's who they're going to remember.
Yeah.
So how can people contact you? Because I know you're open to it.
So I am open to interacting with people that are following Kizzy, and people that just have questions about government contracting. I can be reached via email at admin@familytreesecured.com. Again, that's admin@familytreesecured.com.
Well, this is awesome, and you got to make sure you hit the notification button, you subscribe, you check out the book, winnerswaybook.com, and when you buy direct, you get a bunch of free bonuses, so that's why I always suggest winnerswaybook.com, y'all, and sign up for the Facebook group. I know you're in the Facebook group.
Yep.
You never know. She may pop up, she may comment. There are literally over 10,000 people in the Facebook group, including active contracting officers, including active small business owners, including there's a couple people in there who I know have businesses that do over 10 million a year. Jeez. So there's a lot of amazing people in there. So I am just you gotta give me a hug. I'm so grateful to you for coming here to Mexico, for running with it and not giving up through every step. You never use anything's an excuse. Nothing's been an excuse. The sky's the limit. I love this.
Everything is possible, guys.
Everything is possible.
For
and she'll be
sure.
back.
Yes.
She will be back. So thank you again. Everything is possible. Till next time.